This isn't really a story of why I left New York. I could sum that up in 3 sentences. I got married. My husband lives in London. I went there to join him. That's why. That's why I left. However, in the act of leaving, I encountered all of this emotional turmoil that I really hadn't expected, because I was always the first to say, I hate it here. I don't want to be here. My quality of life in New York is terrible. And so then imagine my surprise at actually leaving and finding that, okay, wait, did I actually like it? Did I have deeper feelings for the city than I thought I had? And maybe, yes, I did. And so this is kind of an attempt to understand that. And maybe it's also an attempt to put it in like a larger context than myself, because it doesn't have to be like self-obsession around here all the time, just most of the time, you know?
So yes, this is only partly a story of leaving New York. It's also a sort of meta commentary on the moving to New York hopes and leaving New York fears, whether leaving was a mistake, whether there was potential to find yourself or to find fulfillment left unexplored. It's a whole genre, this leaving New York concept, and it's everywhere for a reason. Not just because so many people go and so many people leave, but also because people, myself very much included, invest so much in the idea of this place. And then it's a hard place to be.
I went to New York not because I had anything to do there. I just went because like I didn't know where else to go, and it seemed like as good a place to not stagnate as anywhere else. Like I was just like, okay, well, I gotta go somewhere, because otherwise like I'm gonna completely lose my momentum in life and that'll be a disaster and I'll just like spiral into despair. So let's go try it. And of course, like New York had been like one of my major fantasies. Like I'd wanted to live there since I was 14, like hardcore, you know, like I was such a true believer in like that brand of like early 2000s fashion magazine rom-com lifestyle, and I really wanted that to be mine. And I thought like maybe if I go to New York, well, I didn't think I'd actually like work for a fashion magazine, but it's like, hey, maybe I'll like make something of myself and have this like glamorous lifestyle. And I went there kind of like, you know, idolizing all of those like institutions that you associate with New York, like the media, the arts institutions, and the museums, and the music, and blah, 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 blah. And I just thought that like, I thought I could be a part of it. Things just didn't work out. For the first approximately 8 months I was there, could not find a job. Nothing, no source of income. I was just living off like whatever savings I brought with me, which was not much. And when you're paying rent in New York, like that money goes fast. And I didn't have a job. I didn't have any friends apart from my sister. I had no idea what to do. I was pretty lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do, really. I thought, well, maybe I'll work for like a nonprofit or something, or maybe like an academic job or something, but I wasn't really sure. And then like finally I ended up getting a nonprofit job, and it just was really awful. And I kept getting into these like super exploitative work situations where I would just be like coerced into working like hours and hours and hours, like sometimes for like kind of little pay or like lower pay than is actually I think fair to pay someone in New York, and sometimes for like no pay at all. And I kept going and going and going, just hoping that something would happen, and hoping that maybe something I did would like lead to something, or some opportunity would arise. And just every single time I was just like working myself to the absolute bone, and nothing happened. I just really wish it could have been different.
Now, those economic pressures weren't the direct reason why I left, though I certainly thought about it every time I paid my rent or decided I was going to turn my life around and go out and have fun. And I'd invariably end up spending $100 on dinner or whatever. I'd wake up in a wash of regret and tell myself I'm not going to do that again. It just made me wonder why this largest city in the country, this hub of so many things, why is this off limits to the vast majority of people? And a quick scan of any recent demographic information about New York is going to reveal that, yeah, I mean, people earning what would be considered like normal to high incomes just about anywhere else in the country are moving out, and millionaires are moving in. Like, seriously? And the percentage of people who consider the quality of life in the city actually good is pretty low and declining sharply in recent years. And it does just make you wonder, why are you doing it? And yet also, you still want to do it because you've still bought into the mythology.
So, do you want to come with me on a hyper-realistic tour of my New York City bedroom? My bed looks like this. The headboard came from the trash, and then we've got the laundry. Big pile of laundry that I have to take to the laundromat. A dead plant that I don't have the heart to give up. Got my terrifying closet. Full to the brim. We're back to my bed. Get a sense of really how big this room is. We've got the brick wall, like that. I should have seen this coming. I only start to really appreciate New York right as I have a one-way ticket to not leave. Leave would be the wrong word for this. I'm not leaving, but I do have a one-way flight to London. But I think I have a lot of mixed feelings about it because I think, it's like, basically I've been in New York for 4 years, like over 4 years. I'm in my 5th year, which is absolutely insane. And it's just like, I feel like in these 4 years, I haven't made the most of it. I was pretty committed in the beginning to make it a home. And like, contrary to the popular belief of a lot of people who know me in real life, who think that I never tried here, I did try. Like when I arrived, it was like fully with the, I don't know, not the assumption, but at least like the openness to the idea that maybe New York was going to be my forever home. I really thought that New York could be the place where I spent the rest of my life. And I think I was just kind of starting to maybe find my way in the city. I did the obligatory, like, move into a sublet, then another sublet, then had to abruptly leave that second sublet, then finally, like, ended up getting, my name on an actual lease, which was like quite a victory. And I was like, this is going to be good. It was January 2020 when I got my name on that lease. And I was thinking, okay, this is when my real life begins. This is when my real life in New York starts to take shape. But obviously, it didn't.
So add to the financial and quality of life pressures a good dose of social isolation. I don't want to belabor this point because I feel like, honestly, like we've heard enough about it, but it did also strain my relationship with New York. And when you're professionally exploited and you're spending most of your time in your apartment making Kraft mac and cheese and fighting off roaches, you do start to question what you're doing, and you don't have a ton of energy to go out and meet people. You start to think about how much you're spending on this experience and asking whether it's worth it, asking if you could have a better quality of life elsewhere, asking if the promise of a big and vibrant friend group in New York was always a lie.
I feel like what being there forced me to do was like to basically challenge every single aspect of my life and every assumption that I'd made about my future. And it was like, I went to New York really thinking that I would just like find my place. I thought I'd be some kind of researcher and I would find my satisfaction in that. And then I got like these insights into these fields and, I just saw like all of this like, exploitation of workers. And I saw people like getting a leg up who, really maybe didn't deserve it. And I saw people kind of just like exploiting their own identities for like, for funding basically. And it all just like struck me the wrong way. And it kind of like forced me to completely like recalibrate and reset my expectations and figure out like what I actually want and what I actually like and what my priorities are. And I think like I had to see inside of it though, and I had to see like into like the belly of the beast or something to like realize, oh no, like that's not what I want. What? I was going down that path. And so like in a way, maybe like New York like swerved me off the path that I was on. And now I'm like on this new, very uncertain path of like trying to like do something different and kind of like of my own making, and it's very like amorphous at this point. Like I don't really know what I'm doing. But you know, I'm kind of just like thinking, I'm like writing, I'm talking to a camera, and you know, maybe cat sitting eventually, we'll see. So I came to New York as this big people pleaser, this big institutional believer, and I thought that through working for an employer I could just find my purpose, that my purpose would just follow from whatever work I did. I was there putting my faith in the institutions, thinking that an employer would provide me my life's purpose, that I would just get a job and everything would work out. And then it just kind of didn't. The thing about New York though is that, of course, like if you are a people pleaser and you are like, you know, deeply steeped in corporate culture, you can do very well there. You can do great there. In fact, that's maybe the ideal for someone moving to New York, is to just be like a corporate girly or something. Like just fall in line, just do what people tell you to do. But if you're even slightly alternative, counterculturally inclined, it can be a really hard place. And the thing was, I went there thinking that I would align with an institution and that it would match what I wanted to do in life and opportunities would flow my way. But that didn't happen. Instead, I went and I interacted with these institutions, and while I had valued the institutions over time, I found that really they didn't align with my values, I suppose. And I stopped believing that New York could be somewhere where I could be what I need to be, where I could become what I need to be. That hyper-American neoliberal corporate hustle culture, like it exists absolutely everywhere. It's sick. It's just sick. And it's like, again, I know that that's not all of New York though. I know that there are like amazing local communities. I know there are local communities where like people are genuine and authentic and try to make the world a better place. I know those exist. It's just that as a transplant, it can be really hard to find those, to tap into them, because you don't have the connections. And also probably quite rightly too, like you as an outsider aren't going to be trusted by the community members because they'll probably imagine that you are just aligned with the corporate order of the city. But I guess like what you could say is that being in New York, working in New York, basically it radicalized me in a very like anti-work kind of direction, because I had to then confront all of the notions I'd grown up with, that to have a job is good and to work really hard for an employer is good and will give you what you need in life. I had to let go of that notion. And the thing about my time in New York though is like, even though it was like the hardest period and like the period of the most like stress and distress and feelings of being completely lost, like I think I really needed it. I think I needed to learn that lesson. Okay, I'm bringing it full circle. And so to return to the idea of the moving to New York genre and the leaving New York genre, I can kind of see now, having been on both sides, how they kind of represent two sides of the same coin. And maybe it's the two sides of the same coin of like New York's vast propaganda in the world or something like that. I don't know. I mean, just go with me here. Maybe it's not propaganda, that might be a little unfair, but like, have I been fair at all in this video? Actually, yeah, I think I've been very fair. Someone probably disagreed, but you know, whatever. The moving to New York side of things kind of satisfies this public image of the dream-fulfilling New York, the hyper-optimistic version of the city where anything is possible, and if you go there, all you have to do is work hard and make your dreams come true. Work hard being, I guess, the operative word there. And then the leaving New York genre represents more of the cynic's view of the city. So this is like the truest representation of American hyper-capitalism, the work 100 hours a week until you die version of the city. And like, you know, again, having been on both sides of it, like, I want to believe the optimist view, but like I definitely see the cynic's view very clearly. But also, all of that being said, and all of everything I've said so far being said, I still want to believe in the optimist view. Because I think for all that New York is a super tough place to live, and for all that like it will drive you crazy if you spend enough time there, I think it still also has so much potential to be a place of just incredible creativity and incredible freedom if certain maybe political and policy decisions come to pass. My ultimate feeling about New York is that I hope my relationship with the city isn't over. I hope that we're not done, and I can see myself maybe someday going back and experiencing it, though, as I've said, on my own terms, and going there with a little better knowledge of myself and a little better boundaries, and maybe then I could make it work. And I hope I will. Like, I really do genuinely hope that I go back. I don't know what form it will take. I can't even begin to imagine what form it will take, but I'm optimistic. Cautiously optimistic, but I think I'm optimistic.